Hello, my love.
Hello, hello, hello.
So fun to be here. We've already had great sex this morning.
Yes, we have. Yes, we have. This is true. I am honored that we are sharing that
Well, you share it so freely with so many of your friends.
privately on FaceTimes with my friends.
Well, I'm on conversational FaceTime,
Oh.
obviously.
Oh my goodness. No. Let's clarify. No. Like this morning, after we had sex, I was FaceTiming.
I hear you telling a friend that we had.
And I was like, well, I mean, we're keeping each other accountable.
I just wanted to start that way because I feel like so often we start out and be like, the week has been so busy. I haven't seen you. It's just great to have a conversation together.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
I feel like it's honest to be like, man, doing good today.
We are.
Starting the morning out with sex.
Yeah, I
It's
feel
great.
so connected. I need that.
I know. It really is pretty crazy how much
Sex connects you.
It's
I
very,
agree.
very beautiful.
Yep.
It was also fun. We had such a good family dinner last night.
We really did. Yeah, talking about fun stuff and our son getting married and
Yeah, it was fun. It's
Wow.
the most wedding details he has told me.
shared. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was savoring every minute. It
Oh,
actually
it-
makes me emotional.
I know it's been a while since all three of our kids have been around a table together because Zion's been working so much lately.
Yeah.
And just those moments, you just
Oh.
want to, when something good has happened, you're like, I don't want to blink. I don't want to move because I don't want it to end.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
that's how it felt. It was
So true.
It was so
good.
true.
So this episode's going to be around 30 minutes or so. We're going to try, maybe?
Yeah.
Do you want to say that? Or are we not really saying that? We're just doing it.
I'd
see
rather
where it
not
ends.
say that so we can get that part out. But people can tell how long an episode is or we can leave it. They have a little timer
Yeah,
that
good
says how
point.
long it's going to
Good
be.
point,
But,
yeah.
you know,
Well, I'm excited to explore different
I am too.
lengths of time.
You know what's so cool? I got a DM from somebody this week. And she goes, I'm single. I live by myself. Every Monday when I cook dinner, I make dinner listening to you guys. And she goes, I just feel like I'm having dinner with friends.
What's her
Thank you."
name?
I can't remember.
Oh.
I can't remember her name, but
Hey, I know you're making dinner right now. We love you and thank you for listening, and it means the world.
yeah, I just thought that's like, that was really fulfilling to me.
Very
To feel like-
fulfilling. Are you kidding me? That is so meaningful to me.
To feel like there's
I can see it and feel it. and
right,
that's
a
amazing.
conversation with friendships.
Yeah.
And that is
the goal.
the goal. And especially people who find themselves alone. I
Yeah.
listen to podcasts when I'm driving by myself. I'm not a huge music person. I'm definitely more of a podcaster. And it is, you feel not alone in those
Yeah.
moments. I love it. I'm excited to talk today
Okay.
in these next few moments about something that I have always admired about you.
Well, already this is one of my favorite episodes.
Right? Started
Yeah.
with sex. Now we're getting into admiration. I feel like you have always been fully who you are and very confident
Wow.
in who you are.
Thank you.
And I think that is a gift. I think it's probably something that comes a little bit naturally to you. I know for me, that has been much more of a struggle and a fight to find my voice, to find my identity, to like who I am, to be confident in that. And you probably don't know the difference of what it's like to not be your authentic self and be your authentic self. Is that true?
Yeah, maybe, I guess.
So I don't think you're going to be able to relate to the feelings of not being your authentic self. I can relate to those feelings. And I'm excited to get into the conversation of how to truly find yourself. That sounded kind of cheesy. Like, how is it so poetic?
How do I find me?
When
I'm
you say
lost.
like to find your authentic self, that sounds great. When you just say find yourself, that comes across a little cheesy.
Yeah, it's not nearly as poetic and
It's
cool.
not at least poetic and cool.
Yep.
Is my assumption true? In my admiration for you true? Do you feel like you've always known yourself and known your voice?
I definitely had a huge head start, and I, when I feel like you compliment me or my nearest friends compliment me, which I'm really grateful for. Like anybody else, I know deeply what it is to feel insecure or out of your element or that sort of thing. But my mom and dad were very encouraging. Particularly, my mom still is. My dad was really committed to encouraging me along the lines of people like you and want to hear what you have to say, and I believe that. I think actually this morning, I woke up thinking about our kids, and man, have I done that? Didn't know we were going to be talking about this today in our
Mm.
podcast, but am I doing that? I think I grew up with a lot of confidence, and I just feel like I can take little to no credit for um, yeah, I just I really enjoy being me, and I like what I do, and I feel oftentimes probably the sensation I'm just glad I'm nobody else, and I don't know why that is, and I'm just really really grateful for it, and like anybody else, I oftentimes wish I was Denzel Washington, but I'm
Like
not, and
as people do.
of course, as people do, and but yeah, I'm really happy to be me, and I think it means a lot hearing that from you because you've lived nearly every day with me for the last 25 years.
Thank you for giving your parents a lot of credit for that, because
Tons.
your sister is very much the same way.
Yeah,
I think she's very much her authentic self, very
yeah, she really
confident in who
is.
she is, knows her voice. To me, seems like she really always has
Yeah,
known her voice.
I agree.
Um, yeah, as you're saying that, what made you wonder and think, am I doing that enough for my kids?
I think my dad was just so intentional about that part of instilling confidence in Wendy and I, my older sister, and yeah, I just was wondering. I think last night our middle son Elliot came over and was like, kissed me on the cheek and hugged me, and I was like, man, am I giving this guy enough
Oh,
affection? That he
he's
initiated, and I
such
was
a
like, man,
teddy
I
bear.
better, I better lean in, and then you just think of our other son who's gotten engaged, and you're like, oh my word, we're counting down the hours now, really, of him being in our home,
Mm.
which is a whole wild emotion. So yeah, I just want to make sure that I'm instilling that in them. We're Smiths, and our motto is we're kind and encouraging, and we look for lonely people. And but from that comes from a basis of confidence and knowing who we are. So again, I'm so grateful for my mom and dad, but also I think, I got to marry you, and I think you don't struggle at all with fear of missing out. You don't wish you. I can't remember one afternoon or evening where the pain that you were in was in any way correlated or connected to the idea of, I just wish I was somebody else. I just think, and I don't know how much credit we can take for that. I am grateful. I appreciate people's admiration in that regard, but I also have a huge heart and a lot of empathy for people who are like, man, I struggle having confidence and contentment in who I am.
Yeah, that's interesting because I grew up with incredible parents, but
Mm,
I don't think they were as intentional with instilling confidence in me and my
mm.
sister that your parents were with you and your sister. But when you said our Smith family motto, which was for years, "Hey, we're Smiths, we're kind and encouraging, we look for lonely people," like that is who our kids are, and they do that. And this isn't a parenting bot episode, but
Yeah.
it is interesting to me. Somebody once said in a leadership quote of, "Hey, you get what you go for,"
Mm.
and really interesting with our kids too. It's like I think a lot of it is you
In
get what
terms
you,
of leadership, by
yeah,
the
in
way.
terms
Yeah.
of leadership, yeah, you get what you emphasize, what you make a big deal of. Times you get that result. The thing is, you can't emphasize and make a big deal about everything.
Yeah.
I just There is a moment where I just have to trust that, hey, God's plan for our kids was that we would emphasize we're Smiths, we're kind, we're encouraging, we look for lonely people. That was God's plan for our kids, so to
Yeah.
speak.
Yeah. Appreciate that.
I mean, my parents did emphasize other things that I'm really grateful for, and no parents can give every kid every gift.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Yeah.
Like it's just you only do.
I feel better already. Thank you.
You only have 18 years, and you gotta trust. Um, yeah, if I'm really honest, I'm like we're gonna get to some practical points and some great conversations. In fact, let me read this quote, which is fascinating. The Journal of Personality and Social Psychology found that individuals who feel they can express their true selves, they report higher levels of social connection and well-being.
Mm.
Interesting. It's like, of course, it's kind of one of those things that, like, wow, it took a study to prove that, but interesting that there is a study that proves that when we are our authentic selves, we are more socially connected. We have a deeper sense of well-being. Um, I could really say, I think for me, a huge part of finding myself, finding my voice was you, which I don't know if I'm allowed to admit that as a woman in 2024. I don't think it was you as a man necessarily, but you as a partner in life and
Mm.
just your confidence giving me so much confidence. And and just speaking so much life into me. Um,
I appreciate that.
no, that would be my genuine
I mean, it wasn't hard. At
assessment.
least I didn't have to lie. That would have been a bummer. No, you can do it. I don't know, can she? I think by now anyone who knows us or maybe follows some of the stuff we do and say realizes, your brilliance and capacity and capability and your continued pursuit of information and education and exploration and exposure, which is pretty incredible as you are doing your master's degree, which is amazing. And you have every intention of going on to your PhD. And I look forward to both of us being PhDs together.
Oh yeah, what are you gonna get your PhD? What are you gonna
Oh,
get your
whatever
doctorate
you're
in?
getting yours in.
Oh, we'll get it together.
Yeah. Mhm.
I know. I think I'm like 2/3 of the way through my master's. I really,
Mm.
I think I want to pursue my doctorate in church history, just so I can have an excuse to go to Europe and tour churches in
Deal.
Europe, right?
That's weird. That's exactly what I wanted to get my PhD
No,
in.
truly, actually, church history has been one of the most transformative things that I've
Yeah,
studied. So there is that too.
there is
Um,
that.
but really interesting when this subject came up, and obviously surprised to you as I was thinking about it, how our knee jerk reaction was that our experience has been finding our voice and finding our authentic selves in the context of close relationships.
Mm.
You from your parents, me, a lot of it from you. Um, what are your thoughts on that?
Oh man, it's so incredible, the human condition and capacity to mirror your surroundings, good or bad. And that when you surround yourself around secure and confident people, it rubs off. And I am a big, big believer in that. And man, in one ways, I think I'd love to say as I've gotten older, I'm more impervious to uh, insecure people or worriers or anxious, energy. But I actually feel like I'm more sensitive to it, and I'm a little bit more um, impacted by it. And so yeah, it's interesting because someone warned me as you get older, your no becomes far more important than your
Mm,
yes. And I think being able to have the courage to say, "Hey, no, there's a boundary here. Like I'm not going to just absorb and accept kind of insecure, gossipy, self-serving kind of energy and social interactions. We're going to really commit to building people up and not taking ourselves too seriously and being someone who believes that human beings are the prize and that we want to really encourage them." So I, I think we have benefited greatly as we have been aging, or being careful and selective about the individuals in our space.
remember when we first got married, and like a marriage is a merging and blending of a lot of things, like finances, responsibilities, all things, but it's also a merging of friends.
Yeah.
And you brought a couple friend to the table. It was so weird, who we hung out with a few times, and he just constantly cut you down, just
Mhm.
constantly made little digs at you. And I don't want to go into the reason why. To me, I would have guessed it was his own insecurity.
Mm.
Um, and I just was like, babe, I don't enjoy hanging out with people
Yeah.
when he's constantly cutting you down. Can we not be friends with these people?
Yeah.
And that was an interesting choice that we made early on in our marriage.
Yeah, and I think there's tells. There's tells. I mean, I don't know if we're gonna jump into this tributary, but when it comes to building the kind of environment that will help you find yourself and find your true self and be the most confident version of you, I think the environment you put yourself is very much at play and has a huge role and part in either adding to that or detracting from that. And I think we made decisions that, first of all, we live by a concept that only a small person makes others feel small. But it takes a big person to make others feel big. So it's funny. I'd rather compliment people than compete with people. And there are pretty obvious social tells when it comes
Yeah.
to people who are competing or complimenting, comparing or encouraging. And we've just decided to, first of all, be the kind of people we want to be around. I think
Yep.
that's an interesting thing we could digress into. And that is that, like, oftentimes everybody wants, you want to be around encouraging people, but oftentimes you don't want to start by being an encouraging person. And I
Yep.
think the littlest of things end up really, really shaping. If you're like me and you wake up one day and you're 45 and you're like, oh, I guess this actually is our life.
Yeah.
So much.
And this is who I am.
This is
Like
who
there's
I
not
am. This is where we are. This is who we are.
there's
And
still
wow, you got to kind of own that.
there's still growth and there's still change, but you're never going to be an NBA player and I'm never going to be a tennis player. Like it's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
professional.
As much as
We
we
would
dreamed
love
about
to.
it.
I know one of the things I struggled with in trying to find my true self was I remember because I was a human development major in my undergrad. So
Yep.
um taking so many personality tests. And I hated taking personality tests. And the reason why was in pretty much every one, it came up that I'm an introvert. Shocker.
Whoa.
Um, but I had this perception that in our society, introverts are less valuable than extroverts.
Oh, wow.
And so, because I felt like I have a character quality, a characteristic, part of my personality and makeup is
Mm,
something that isn't valued by society,
mm.
I rejected it and didn't want it and didn't embrace it and wanted to play pretend like I was something else. And we could go all day long about introverts and extroverts and read a book that's like The Power of Introverts. It was called Quiet. It's really life changing for me, actually,
Yeah. I remember you reading that
in that
book.
specific area.
Yep.
But we all have character, personality. Our authentic selves
Hmm.
are filled with things that our society deems as valuable,
Hmm.
and things that our society deems as less valuable. How do we embrace all of who we are in the areas that our society doesn't seem to make a big deal of?
Yeah. It's really, really good. Um, I mean, the most um, candid and honest answer I can give really gets back to something I believe fundamentally about the divine and about God. Um, and that is that God knows me better than I know myself. He is fully um, aware of and connected to my strengths and my weaknesses. And one of the scriptures that is just revolutionary to me as it pertains to knowing who I am and being who I am is that um, this idea of that, when I am weak, then I am strong. There's this portion of the New Testament where this guy that God uses named Paul, who writes probably more than half of the New Testament, he says, I kept asking God to take away these weaknesses,
Mm.
whatever that is, take away these shortcomings, take away these
The
inadequacies,
thorn in the
the
flesh
thorn
is
in the
what
flesh,
how he
right?
says it, which is I like that it's poetic, but
Yeah, it is
yeah.
poetic. And he said, basically, the answer he got, and God was like, nah. And that the response from God was, when you're weak, then you're strong, and my power rests on you. So I think what's hard to um, disconnect Judah and Chelsea from is that we believe in this divine being, this father who is acquainted with our weaknesses. In fact, more than acquainted, he has decided to cover our weakness. And by that, not meaning he doesn't challenge us and help us and convict us but but where we are weak, if we are willing to say, I'm weak, he's like, I can turn it into a strength because your weakness will become, don't take a big breath on me yet.
Because I'm gonna just I'm like,
Don't do that. I know what
okay,
you're doing. Bear
okay.
with me for a
I will
moment.
pause on the big breath.
Thank you, dear God.
You're
But
taking so long
just,
to get to your
I know.
point.
Let me just say it. Let me say it very, very quickly. And that is that I think as it pertains to strengths and weaknesses, it's hard for me to articulate how I relate to my weakness without articulating what I believe about this great grand God
That,
who accepts me fully even with my weakness. And
yeah.
so I see a weakness as a portal to continue to need him, depend on him, rely on him. Inversely, or conversely, or in an inverted way, now I get to fully embrace my strengths while admitting fully my weakness. And before I know it, I call it integration. Now I'm like, I'm not in denial. I'm not trying to keep my weaknesses secret and
Yeah.
private.
S-
And so I think there's an integration there that leads to some confident living.
Yeah, I think what I'm taking a big breath about is, maybe I don't think you understood the question, is that
Oh,
I don't see being an introvert as a weakness.
not at all.
Um,
Oh, was I communicating that?
no, 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 no. But we live in a society that tends to. Does that make sense?
Oh
And I'm
yeah.
not talking
Man, I
about,
totally missed the question then.
but I actually really love what the
Okay.
answer was, hey,
I did not in any way intend to
was
say that.
no, 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 no. I know
Introverts have shaped the world as we know it.
so have extroverts, but there are just certain um character qualities that our
Mm,
society views as more valuable that aren't necessarily strengths or weaknesses,
yeah,
but our
just
society
wiring.
just just puts on a different stratosphere. Oh, this is more important, and this has this type of pay grade to it, and
Yeah.
that's I don't think is a spiritual issue so much
Mm,
as it is a societal one. But because we are spiritual beings, I love that you gave a spiritual answer. The other day I was talking to one of our kids, and they're in the origin of the species, science class right now in school. And I was going to say she, this is Grace. I was talking to Grace, and she's telling me that literally in their class they had to write down, like, do you believe, yes or no, that like we evolved from apes or whatever? And
right.
Grace is like, no. And it said why. You had to put why you do or don't believe in that. And Grace is like, no, for religious purposes.
That's funny.
Right,
I'm going to do that more.
right.
Why do you not believe that? For
For
religious
religious like
purposes.
the time you tried, to enter into an establishment where no hats were allowed. They tried to take you to take your hat off, and you said you were wearing it for religious
Religious
purposes.
purposes. And then I walked out and he's like, hey, Pastor,
And you're like,
I know
oops,
why you're wearing the beanie. And I was like, oh, didn't know you went to our church. My bad.
sorry about that.
That was a funny story.
Yeah,
It's a steakhouse. Yeah.
yeah, that was great.
I mean, the
So,
steakhouse needed to relax. I mean, my
well,
word, let a guy
but
wear a beanie. Huh?
but
My hair was a mess.
we were there. We go
Yeah.
by their rules anyway for religious purposes. So,
Sorry.
but I think Grace is like, hey, why do you believe that we were created by God? And I said, there's a lot of the details of creation that I don't understand necessarily. I said, but I do know how much strength and confidence it gives me to believe that I was formed and shaped
Hmm.
by God.
Yeah.
Even fallen world, so many things
Fearfully and wonderfully made.
that if God wanted me to be an extrovert, I would be an extrovert.
That's right.
If God wanted me to be, like, I always wanted to get to be 5'9", like, I don't know, that was just my like target goal. I made it like 5'7 3/4. But like, if God wanted me to be 5'9", I would have been 5'9". And just that, the ease the confidence that can bring, and that letting go of that, and really
Mm.
trusting that I am made and shaped and created by a loving Heavenly Father who has a plan for my life,
Wow.
and really does.
Oh man, that's huge.
Don't you think too, a
Huge.
lot of the reasons we are afraid to be our authentic self has to do with fear?
Oh my word.
A-
Absolutely.
And if you never know the real me,
Mhm.
but you reject me, I can live with that. But if you know the real me
There it
and you
is.
choose not to love me, you choose not to see me, you choose not to appreciate me or value me, um, then that is just so much more
Then
devastating.
quite literally, you have rejected me. And I think billions of people never end up showing their true self for fear of a rejection that is so profound. Um, and I completely understand that, and don't fault anyone for being like, I don't think I'm ever going to bring my full self to stuff because what if I would be fully rejected? Because I can go home at night and tell myself, well, they don't really know me. If they really knew me,
It's
they wouldn't reject
it's
me.
like the same fear of, oh, if I don't really try hard on this test and I fail it, then
Yeah.
I just didn't try hard.
Oh, that's
It's
what I do when I start playing bad golf. I act like I don't care because I care so much. And if I care too much, then I fail, then it's going to hurt. So then it's like, I don't care and I didn't try. So that's why.
yeah,
Yeah, that's real.
that is very
Oh,
real.
golf.
Oh, golf.
Yeah.
Um, so what? that fear is real. That
Mhm.
fear of rejection, that fear of if people see the real me, what if I get into this and I don't like my authentic self?
Yeah.
Then how do I live with myself? So I'm just not even gonna try or start or dig into this.
Yeah, and I think, you know, in good faith obviously has the word faith in it, so it's pretty obvious that, and both you and I have um, minister license. We are licensed ministers. We can do all of the sacred events and moments in people's lives, dedicate babies and weddings and funerals and such. And we've both done some Bible schooling and all that. But I certainly, both you and I don't want this podcast just to be simply defined by Christianity. This is a exploration of the human journey and the human existence. But I do have days where I wonder. You can label me whatever you want, crutch, all that, but it's like, yeah, I just don't know how people move through this life
Mm.
without a sense of this gregarious divine being. I will um, give flowers to people who don't believe there's a God. That takes an exorbitant amount of faith in my word, in my thoughts, extraordinary amount of faith, more faith than I think it takes to believe in an architect and a designer and a creator. But I believe um, that architect and designer and creator designs with a profound and deep purpose. I think we have all been flawed by free will, and yet in his sovereignty he allows free will. So I think what I'm saying is, in short, because you took a deep breath again, which means I need to close up my thoughts. Um, I wake up with this real personal, intimate sense that God put me um, in this world at this time with my name, with my makeup for a reason, for a plan. And He's proud of me and He loves me even in my shortcomings. Like anybody else, we all have a stage of some kind, and our stages are all different. In some cases, like me and you, we actually have an actual steps we go up to, and we actually stand on a stage every now and again, and we literally have a stage. But when I go to my stage, the stage God has asked me to step up to, I can't tell you how many times I've lost count as I'm walking up that stage going, I definitely don't have the credentials, the makeup, or the consistency that warrants, earns, or deserves me to step on the stage. But I go up those stairs knowing that if I'm weak, He's strong and He'll make up the difference and make up the delta. And if I'm honest, that's how I step on the stage of life every day. Not to be too ridiculously dramatic, but it really is. I do a lot of self talk every day, and it has a lot to do with I am who I am by God's creation and God's design and God's makeup, and I trust Him. I have my discrepancies with God on some of the ways He made me and why He did that, but nonetheless, here I am, and I'm trusting Him to help me,
Yeah, and I think that's the only genuine answer that I could
at least for
give
us.
as far as like how do you find and embrace your authentic self? Like you
Mm,
have to believe that somebody values you and loves you for exactly who you are. And some of the and whether our society finds those things as great or not great, that your creator, God, the
mm.
divine, actually does love you and embrace you for who you are. And if it doesn't start there, I actually don't know where else it could start. And from you look like you're gonna say something.
Yeah,
See?
no,
Yeah,
I'm
you're
just
taking a
add
deep
I
breath.
no, no, no deep breath here. I'm just,
You're just
I'm feeling the flow, and I'm excited. I don't know, I just want to say something to some people out there that I think in moments like this, and topics like this, episodes like this, podcasts like this, messages like this, um, start to go, yeah, but what if they don't like me? Yeah, but what if they don't accept me? What if they don't protect me? Um, what if they don't care for me? What if no one cares for me and protects me? And so what we do is we augment um, how we bring ourselves to the
Yep.
room, the proverbial
Yep.
room. And one of the things I have found deep comfort in is that it only took 33 years. But in 33 years of pure and utter, total, complete perfection, by all accounts, that I truly believe, Jesus never committed sin. In other words, he never committed a selfish, self serving, self centered, missing the mark action. Tempted? Yes, but never did. And yet, 33 years into his manifestation on this planet in the Middle East, the masses started chanting that he would be executed in the most worst and
Mm.
horrific way. Crucify him, crucify him, crucify him. And I got to say it because it's worth saying. Any way you slice it, there is going to be people who curse you and want you to fail. And in some cases, they want to see you hurt. And you can be perfect and that can still be served up. In fact, I would say if you are perfect, which there is only one, but even if that was possible, you might be hated more because you are perfect.
Yeah.
So I say that to say, like, as we sit here recording this podcast, if we did this 10 years ago, this would be a completely different episode for me. It just would. Because I would say that if you do some things right, a lot of people will like you. 10 years later, 35 to 45, we have had more people exit our life than I would have ever imagined in my lifetime. And I don't mean a mass exodus as much as I mean people who just like, no thanks. I don't understand the direction you're taking, the course you're taking, the vernacular you're using, the approach, the decisions, the vision. I don't get it. I'm out. And in some cases, some people have felt really passionate about the
Yeah.
direction we've taken. And yet, in a way, it's galvanized you and me. And I think we've become more passionate about being who we believe God's asked us to be. Does that
And
make any sense?
not settling of, if I have to be somebody than other who God made me to be, who I
Mm,
believe God designed me to be, and
mm,
has establishing community and all those things. If I have to be anything other than that, for you to accept me, your acceptance isn't worth that for me.
yeah,
And that's taken some years to um to be okay to say. Now, sometimes you just be wise and you're like, okay, I'm just not going to let everybody see every part of me. And
yeah,
that's not me being my authentic self. That's actually me protecting and just guarding and knowing different
absolutely. Yeah.
relationships. But I love what you said about Jesus. And I think that's a wonderful, powerful place to end on, that even perfect Jesus was misunderstood and rejected.
Mm,
And if our gauge for us being our our authentic
yeah.
selves is by people understanding and accepting us, then our gauge is wrong.
Yeah.
That it's more about how we connect with Jesus and one or two, I think, really close people.
I think one of the great, thank you for saying that. I think one of the great goals in life as we're ending is to be known.
Hmm.
I think it's one of the great gifts you could ever experience. And I would just like to take pressure off of anyone willing to listen to this episode and just say, you're not going to be known by a lot of people. You're just not. What's the grand total? I don't know. That would be silly for me to guesstimate, but it's not going to be a lot. So, but I urge anyone willing to listen to my 45-year-old voice, pursue the path of truly being known.
Great. Can I give you
It's scary, but man, is it rewarding.
crazy thing I just read?
Please.
Aristotle, who's before Jesus, uh, talked about the values of friendship and what it
Mm,
should be. And
mm,
think about in small communities, most villages and cities where 5, 10, 20,000 people would have been a big city. And even in that context, no social media, no, everything is face to face walking people. He said, when he described friendship, he said, and I feel like very few people can have more than 2 or 3 genuine friends if this is what friendship actually is. And it was in the context of being known, of being truly known and knowing somebody else and carrying burdens together
In an ancient culture.
in an
I mean,
ancient
that is
culture. Really fascinating. So
wild, provocative,
let me
powerful.
close this in prayer.
I was going to say, I think you should pray today because
Oh, look
you
at that.
are
Because we had
very,
such good
very
sex this morning.
authentic and integrated. And boy, do you do sex well.
Okay, that was too far.
Why
Jesus.
was that too far?
Honestly,
Jesus.
sex is do. No, no, let's not get into it. We're gonna try to keep this shorter. Jesus. Thank you that you made us and you know us
Yes, you
and you
do.
care about us. And
Yes, you do.
God, I prayed for ourselves, for everybody listening, that you would reveal to us who
Hmm.
we are.
Yes, God.
You would show us who you made us to be. God, I pray that you would align our hearts and our emotions and our thoughts, not
Yes, God.
with what a culture tries to say is valuable, but what you say is valuable. And what we are valuable is who you are, who we are, and who you made us to be. Father, I pray if um, any person has come to anybody's mind who they feel like there is a friendship or person in their world who they can't be their true selves with,
Yes.
God, I pray you would give very clear courage, direction, and understanding in what to do with that information that has dropped into somebody's heart and
Yes, God.
spirit during this episode. Thank you that you are with us and you love us and you delight in us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.